most famous brakim in all of Shas. One of these catch-all brakim, which has a whole bunch of important stuff in it. And if somebody is damaged, then you pay them back with the best property that you have in your possession. U'Baal Chov, if somebody is a Baal Chov, somebody is a creditor, you pay him back Beinonus, medium property. I said in your possession, that was a slip of the tongue. I didn't mean to say that. Just the best. Baal Chov Beinonus, with middle grade. Ksuva Sisha, the Ksuva woman, Busy Buris, low grade. Ksuva woman also by medium grade. Now, yeah.
Totally tangential. Well, we had this, this Gemara in Ksubas in the morning about Teresavas Chalav V'Tvash. We had that in Yerushalmi.
Yeah, we had it, but a different place, not at the end of Ksubas.
I looked up in my notes. We had it in Bikurim, and it wasn't very Shluckish. We did talk about Sipori. It was, guys, and they said slightly different.
Yeah, Bikurim, that's what it was. Yeah, I knew that. All these guys, there's parallels in the Yerushalmi, but elsewhere.
The key parallels probably in the Medrash more than the Bible, because it isn't all.
Elliot Robinson told me that one of his the conservative female rabbis at the Wexner Fellowship Institute wrote a paper comparing the Agat, the end of Ksuvas, and the Bavli and the Yerushalmi, which I guess Yerushalmi Bikurim. So I told him he should get it for me, but he hasn't gotten it yet. Right?
There is something in the Medrash Rabbah Koheles that discusses Eretz.
Yeah. So I actually heard this from Jeremy Newman, and he said that, and I did not know this, and I haven't seen it anywhere else, but he told me, maybe you heard this, that the Medrash Rabbah is based mostly on the Agadah of the Yerushalmi.
I think the wording is slightly off. They were parallel.
They're parallel.
I don't think they're one's based upon the other. I think they're parallel. My brother on the Chemi Pol is a maven on the Midrash. He can tell you everything about it. I think they're parallel. More than one based on the other.
Okay, that might be. Okay. So, the Gemara immediately starts off and says that if you Nizakin you pay Idis, certainly Hektish you pay Idis. So what is that Kal V'chomer Hektish? What are we talking about? Now it seems that that's a brisa. So Rabbi Abba Bar Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Abba said Rabbi Yossi Manachem. What are we talking about? Im Lechshin Nezikin. If we're talking about your ox. Hechshin Nezikin is a euphemism. I'm not sure exactly where it comes from. Oh, I know where it comes from. Hechshin Nezikin means a nezik which you prepared or allowed. Meaning not that you yourself damaged, but your ox damaged. So if it's about where your ox gored hekdesh, that's not what you, in that case, that's not what you learn. Shora eyu v'lo shor shel hekdesh. Nezakin only applies to shor re'eu, and not a shor of hekdesh. If your ox gores your friend's ox, not if your ox gores a hekdesh ox, or anything which has to do with hekdesh. So it's an interesting thing, the Or Sameach says, that what does it mean shor re'eu v'lo shor shel hekdesh? If you damage hekdesh, you have to pay, right? Obviously, it doesn't exempt you from payment. What it means is that it's not a parameter of what the Torah calls nizkei mamon. It's a parameter what the Torah calls a debt. You incur a debt. When you damage your fellow human being, you're entering into the category the Torah calls mazik, or nizkei mamon. When you damage hekdesh, though, you're generating a debt which you have to repay hekdesh. It's not the same thing. That's what the Gemara is saying over here. That even though the Torah says by nizakin meitav sadeu meitav karmel yishalem, that's talking about nizakin, where you damage your friend. But where you damage hekdesh, that ben adam l'chavero component is lacking. So therefore, as the Gemara at first glance is grappling with this, how do you know it's a kal v'chomer for hekdesh, right? Maybe hekdesh you pay less. Maybe it's dafka what's classified as nizakin, a damage to your fellow man, you pay yidis, but not when it goes to hekdesh.
Hey, Moshe has a different distinction.
Yeah.
He says that it has to do, the distinction is whether you damaged or whether your property damaged.
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah, I know that they say, but I don't understand why that should be a difference.
It's certainly not apparent of it.
Yeah, they Korban Eda also says the same thing, but I didn't understand that. So in any event, so it says Imar Im Leniza Nizke Gufo. This story about actually where you were mazik hekdesh personally. In other words, you yourself are mazik hekdesh. So although the time of Rabbi Chia, that's not what Rabbi Chia said. Nizakin lehejav and nizakin legavo. Again, the same idea. Personal damage which you wreaked on hekdesh is not in the parameter of personal damage wrought on a fellow human being. So again, how do we know that in this case you would pay meitab? Maybe you don't pay meitab. Maybe you don't give it this. Maybe it's like any other Baal Chol, Beinonis. Well, how do you know it's Beinonis? Elken Kayomit. So where's the Kal V'chomer? Kal V'chomer is the following case. But somebody says, Hare Olai Mea Mona Lehektish. A guy says, he takes upon himself a pledge to give $100 to Hektish. Shalot Tomar, you might say that, let's say that he becomes a Baal Chov, V'yiveh Beinonis, and therefore he collects in Beinonis, right? The Hekdesh collects in Beinonis. L'fum Kain, therefore, Tzarech Mem, we have to say, Nizakin Shavim Be'idis, in Nizakin you pay Idis, Kal V'chomer Lehekdesh, Kal V'chomer B'Hekdesh, you pay Idis as well. Now, the Gemara is very strange. I still don't understand the conclusion of the Gemara, because what's a Kal V'chomer? Nizakin, maybe you pay more because it's a Benon L'Chavero, as opposed to the case of Hekdesh where there's no Benon L'Chavero. Maybe their Benon suffices, and certainly it should suffice if all you did is pledge. I know you made a pledge that pledge requires you to give Idis to Hekdesh. So it's kind of cryptic. I don't know. I
would think the Kavachon is in the Machavero you pay Idis. Has come of a kama for something spiritual like Hekdesh. In other Makom you pay Idis.
What? Yeah, but there should be some sort of, I don't know if you know, the Kavachor means even without a pasuk. That's a little bit difficult to say it's without a pasuk. But that's what it says over here. You're right. That's like Mammon Gavoa is a basic assumption it's going to be more severe. Okay, you're right. That's what it says here, basically. All right. Can't argue, but I feel there's something missing. Anyway, Tanya we learned that Chia said, Nezik v'chati nezik.
The only thing is the way to pick on a Kavachomer is, obviously they're saying Kavachomer because there's a Kabbalah for it.
No, Yerushalmi is Kavachomer. Kavachomer we can construe on our own.
Oh, you're right.
Right. Yeah.
There's also a concept of Mehila. Hekdesh is such a higher level that there's such a concept as Mehila.
Yeah, maybe that's the basic the Kavachomer. Maybe because there's Mehila, which is more stringent than Stam or Det. Could be that's the reason that might be. Time we learn in Bryce it says Nezek b'chati nezek nivi minam mishubadim. If your animal damages, you're paying full, or you damage, you pay full nezek. Or if your ox gores and you pay only half damages because it's a tom, it's not yet wood. So then nivi mishubadim is collected from property which you have already sold to sell. Which you, even if you sell property after the nezek, it's collected from that property. Oh. Yeah, actually, it's interesting when it doesn't give that answer to the following question. Nicha nezek. I understand nezek that you pay from nechasim mishubadim, but chati nezek, I don't understand. If you have nezek, there's a principle. If your ox, which is a tom, gores another ox, so you only pay migufo. You only pay from whatever the value of your ox is. You don't pay from anything else, right? There's a principle of Baba Kama. If you pay, you sell your own ox, or in order to pay for it, or you give him your ox, or divide up the ox. But it always is migufo. It's a payment that's based on the value of the ox that you have. So, how does nechasim mishubadim come into play? So it says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef, it says the potter b'short tam shehizik. We're talking about where, in fact, an ox which was a tom damaged, and the owner of the ox went and sold it. So then the damaged party goes and collects that ox from whoever bought it. The ox is already on the lien to the individual who is damaged. Or another interpretation. Rabban in the Kesarian the rabbis in Kesarian said, we can explain it about a case where already was adapted as a loan. Now, it's an interesting point which we're going to go into later on this evening. Even though something can start off as a type A, you can change that around to a type B. It's the same thing here. Even though something could be originally start off as a nezek is only paid mikufo, but later on, at some point, they can agree that it will convert to a debt. And when it converts to a debt, it's not just migufo. And there's an advantage and disadvantage to that. For nezek is from idis, right? chov is only from Beinonis, but nezek is only migufo, from the animal itself, right? Whereas the chov can even be from elsewhere, from the chosim mishubadim. So all sorts of trade-offs, but you can actually change the status of money owed from obligation type 1 to obligation type 2. Okay? So it says more me'atolo sikve bevenos. If that's the case, if you switched it, so should taka only collect in beinonis. Says more, no, that they didn't switch. Now, in other words, the nizak can agree to a partial switch, but not a full switch. That's within his rights. Nezek, and I assume that that's what it means here, since it was primarily from a case of nezek, goyve bidis, the right to collect an edis remains. Okay? Now, it says, Meitav Sadeu, Meitav Karmo Yishalim. Sadeu, when it says Sadeu, Pratlam Meshubah, it means you pay from fields which you had at the time of Nezek, not ones you sold off before your animal or you were mazik. Karmo, and it says your vineyard, Pratla Hekdesh. And here too we learn, Pratla Hekdesh comes to exclude Hekdesh. So before we had we excluded Re'eu v'lo Hekdesh. Now we learn Karma v'lo Hekdesh, right? So what does it mean? Manakim, what are you talking about? We're talking about where you damaged, and then the property which you could have used to pay for the damage you made Hekdesh. Let's say it's an ox, in the case of an ox, or it might be a field in the case of a field. In case we had fields, right? And, well, let's say it's an ox in the case of the ox gores, or fields in the case where you yourself were mazik. Well, if it's an ox, actually, the Begillah Ephraim says this is only talking about an ox because the Gemara's answers. We learned that hiktish tishim mana. Well, it's halacha, if you made something hektish which was worth $90, and it was and you owed somebody $100, so the halacha is that we redeem the hektish for a token sum, and the guy who's your creditor gets that thing which was hitherto hektish. So in fact, there is such a concept that even though you have to redeem the hektish with a token amount, but lamaisa, this object goes to the person who was a creditor before hektish took over. So from this we see that even if you're mazik and they were makdish, then that doesn't help to get the object out of the status of being under lien to the individual to whom you're mazik. And vice versa, if it's a case where you were makdish and then it was mazik, meaning, as I said, the Gillian Friday says, talking about an ox. We consecrated the ox and then it was mazik, we don't have to pay there at all. Where it's an oxen goring each other, where they both belong to hedyotos, but now when one of them belongs to hekdesh. So it says more about Yudan. It says the potter we can resolve it. Talk about b'shorshel hekdesh. Talk about the ox of hekdesh and ox of hekdesh. Shera l'toch sadeh hedyot, which you grazed into somebody else's field, okay, and damaged it. So you grazed a hekdesh ox into somebody else's field. So in that case, we say that it's true that shore eyuv lo shorshel hekdesh, which he had on top, exempts in keren. In cases of goring, it exempts the parties from payment. However, we didn't know about Shane and Regel, where the animal ate, or the animal kicked, or the animal actually stepped on. How we know in those cases that you're parted from paying because the ox, which already consecrated, did the act. So that we learn out from Karmo. It's got to be a case where everything involved is like your vineyard, which is privately owned, as opposed to anything which is hektish owned. Okay? Amalei Rabbanan said, Adam being a karka hektish. No, that won't work, because karmo is going on the field, which is on the field, and you're making the ox a hektish ox. Right? It says karmo v'lo hektish, so the miut, that exclusion is going on the field in question. You're putting the exclusion on the animal in question. You're saying the animal of hektish which grazed in a hedyot field doesn't have to pay. But that's not that I can learn out from shorei v'lo shorshel hektish, because that's about the ox. I need something which I can learn out from the discussion of a field. So what do I know from the discussion of the field? So rather tell you about this. You promised $100 to hektish, and you personally went and were mazik. after you made this pledge to hekdesh. Shelo tomar, you shouldn't say ilu nizakinu milva be'edim. If the case a person owes money on a nezek, and a person owes money on a loan where they're edim. So on nizakim komi, we say the nezek comes first. The nezek is considered to be higher priority, and he pays that off if he has limited funds before he pays back the loan. The call, and so to here you say kodem anezek lekdesh. So to you say sitting over here, since damaging hekdesh, like the Yerushalmi says, is a form of loan, so therefore you should pay the nezek before you pay hekdesh. So it says karmo prat lehekdesh, your vineyard precluding hekdesh. So meaning that, interesting the way we're learning this out here. We're saying that the hekdesh is precluded from the hierarchy of these damages, and therefore it comes first in terms of hekdesh is precluded from the hierarchy of nezek and then debt, right? Normally you pay up what you owe on damages and what you owe on debt subsequently when you have limited funds. But here, since it says that whatever parameters apply to nezek don't apply to hekdesh, so therefore when you owe money even as a debt to hekdesh, that takes precedence to what you owe to somebody else as a nezek. Which again, it goes back to the principle we said before, that it's, hekdesh takes precedence, right? So, Sadeu, says Metav Sadeu, Metav Karmo, Sadeu Prat L'Metaltalin, your field precluding movable objects. We'll see what this means. And karmo, a different drush on the word karmo, prat leroy kamusa, something which it precludes something which is coming to you but you're not holding on to right now. Now what do these two things mean? Sadeo prat l'metaltalin, your land precluding movable objects. Behain, we're talking about an individual, the low boy metaltalin mishori shayna. He doesn't want to pay metaltalin to begin with. Right, and he has the right to refuse to pay. So in that case, we take his land, but others we take his metaltalin. And this is like we learned over there. The Tani we learned ainli ela karka. I only know that if somebody damages, you pay up in land, because it says meitav sadeh, meitav karmo yishalem, right? Minayim shir mrotzo litein kesef. How do we know that if he wants to give money, we give money? Tam lomer kesef yashilu ba'alov, because it says money you give back to the owner. Now, and money is not just money, but also any other metaltalin. In other words, the Gemara is saying that any other metaltalin is also including money. It's interesting. In the Bavli, we learn out for the word meitav. It says meitav means anything good, and all metaltalin are good because you can always sell them and raise cash. But here we're learning from Ke, who said we're not learning from the word meitav, rather learning from the words, what? Not so. Kesef Yoshi Labalov. Kesef Labalov means, and we're saying that Kesef includes metaltalin, okay? As opposed to meitav including metaltalin, Kesef includes metaltalin, okay? Not such a big chiddush, but but nevertheless, it is a difference. Now comes the interesting point, though. What are you going to say? Karka ikar? Do we say that land is primary, or the flip side would be is money primary? So it's interesting. Of course, in the Bavli, money is always primary, and that's how the Korban Eight interprets here as well. But it doesn't seem away from the Yerushalmi, which we're about to read. I think the Pnei Moshe does hold the Yerushalmi learns different than the Bavli. So the question is, when the Mazi comes to pay, what's preferential? Is it preferential for him to pay in cash or in land? So we would say in the Bavli it's always preferential to give cash, even metaltalin, better than give land, because land is a hassle to sell. But look at the language of the Yerushalmi here. We're going to say money is primary. They let us give that over to begin with. And we have seen that the rabbis give over land instead of money. So in other words, when they're collecting from the debtor, they collect land. So from this, it seems to me that the Yerushalmi holds that even though the debtor has the right to pay off in money, but if he's recalcitrant and the creditor comes to collect from him, according to Yerushalmi, we will go first after the land and not after the money. which I think is the opposite of the Bavli. If I recall correctly, the Bavli always go after money first, or metalton first, and only if there is no money in metalton do we then go after karkos.
Well, I'm going to put a Zionistic spin on this. It's Eretz Yisrael. The land is our land. It's Jewish land, so that's always going to be there.
But they're always everybody is.
Chutz La'aretz, it could be taken over by the government, whoever it is, the Goyish government. So land is. I told you so.
It can be Zionistic, but it's got to ring with some degree of truth. I stand in awe of your pilpul, but I don't think it has any shred of truth to it. Okay, how do we go? For comic relief, it was good, though. Carmo, your vineyard. Frat Leroy Kumamuchsak. It precludes that which is coming to a person, like that which is unlike that which is held by a person. This is actually a fascinating halacha. Rabbi Nisso says it's like this. What does that mean? B'shachafar aviv bor, your father dug a pit. And of course, this pit was in the middle of the street, and people fell into it and got damaged, right? During his lifetime, that pit caused damage. Now your father died. And property fell to you after your father's death. Now, this property did not fall from your father, because if it fell from your father, the lien would pass with the property down to you. But I'll tell you about a case over here where the property fell to you from elsewhere. So a Yitzhar, I would say, once the father died, he assumes all his father's debts, Yishtabim the Chasav Lo Sanezek, and therefore whatever property he gets should become a shubah to that damage. It's why it says the Karmo, it says his vineyard, Parat Lamoyel Kumukso, as opposed to stuff which he could potentially get but was not holding on to at the time. So meaning stuff that the father had at the time that he died, or stuff which was coming to him at the time he died, that goes under lien. But the son, when he picks up that obligation after his father's death, does not have to pay for property which came from elsewhere to him after his father's death. Which is interesting more because l'chorah it's pashut, right? But I guess we would say that because the son is not responsible for all of his father's debts, he's only responsible for his father's debts as they relate to the estate. And here the property came from elsewhere. But I guess we would have entertained the Havamina that Nezek is different, that for a criminal act, there's a Gemara in
Hello?
Yeah.
It's also to answer during the 3 weeks. Oh, it's also let it ring during the 3 weeks. There's a Gemara in the I forget where it is in the Bavli, but it says that if your Baba Kama, if your father stole, then it's kibud of even though you're not required al pidin necessarily to return the gzeila, kibud of you're supposed to. Even in cases where we can't require al pidin, you're supposed to return it. So here too, I guess we would say the same thing. So it's saying that we don't put that requirement upon you. Okay, you're not required to return that which your father damaged, even if you have the property and you're wealthy. Damage is not the same like a criminal act of theft on your father's part, and therefore you don't have to return unless your father actually left you property. That's what it seems to say over here. Okay, says a very famous machlokas, of course, in the Bavli as well. Meitav sadeh meitav karmo, the best of your field and the best of your vineyard, shel mazik, the best of the mazik has divi Rabbi Shmuel. Meitav sadeh meitav karmo shel nizak, the best of your field and the best of your vineyard of the person who's damaged. Okay. So says Yerushalmi, very practical, classical Yerushalmi type question. Says Kasha Vikiva Tzibor Vikiva Nisok, but his best might have been ruined. His property was damaged by the damager, right? So what do you mean you're going to give him his best based on what's now his best? It's ruined property you're assessing. So how can you pay him his meitav sadeh? Maybe that's precisely what the mazik was mazik, right? So how are you going to assess it? So it's very...
The question is, are you valuing the property after the damage or before?
Right, so that's what Yerushalmi basically says. It should be hanezek. What was the best property before the nezek? And they assess it like that. However, it's ka'ador. It's very important to note this. We spoke about this in the past, but not recently. If I, this is the similarity to put in modern terms, and then we'll put into Gemara. If I, let's say in Dr. Spadel's case, which happens to me, that has happened to me, that somebody shears off the mirror of my car. So I'll pee din, I really can't collect from that person the cost of a new mirror. What I can collect from a person is only, no, not even that. I can only collect the difference between the value of my car with a mirror and the value of my car without a mirror. That's what I can collect. So let's say you have a car which sells, which might theoretically, I guess it could be more than replacement cost, but it's probably unlikely. So let's say if you have a car, a jalopy, which is going to sell for only $100, right? It's really a jalopy. And somebody comes and breaks off your mirror. So the replacement value of that mirror might be $60. But if you sold the car without the mirror, it's going to sell for $99 instead of $100, right? So the guy only owes you $1. He doesn't owe you for the $60 whatever the replacement cost is. So that's what the Gemara is about to say. The Gemara is about to say, let's say you have a case like this. Well, we'll see it inside. So it says, it took me a long time to understand this. It's a very new concept for American law, but that's the way it is. So, if an animal went, you have an entire patch of a field, which is all ziburis, except it has one place in the field which is edis. And the animal which came in, your friend's animal which came in, ate from that edis patch. And you assess that edis patch on its own. So the payment the animal is going to have to, the payment the owner of the animal is going to have to give you for ruining that one patch, not just he ate, but he ruined, is astronomical. It's very high. It's the replacement cost of the mirror, right? So that's what it is. That's what he says. We don't reckon like that. If he ate from the best, do we give him from the best? Meaning ziburis, or he ate from the worst. Shamilom meaning ziburis, that you give him from the ziburis, that you reckon it based on the ziburis around it. Hechavida, what are you going to do in the case of idish shebeziburis? If the animal came in and trampled the best good patch in a ziburis field, tavasagin, that one is worth very, very much. If that's the case, say so much else than nizak, you're going to give much more than a nizak than he actually should get. Why? Because again, the principle is not replacement, but rather diminished value. So therefore, if I go and I assess a patch of edis in a field of ziburis, so the guy, the damagee, is going to get far more damage than he should be getting. Because if you assess absolute value, it's an astronomically high number. Even if you assess the value of this field, in this parcel of the field, in contradistinction to the rest of the field, it's also a very high number. Because that the equivalent would be like this. Let's take an analogy. If you had on your car was the $100 jalopy, right? But he was mazik this. You put in a $500 stereo in your $100 jalopy, right? So if you assess the value of the car, it's interesting. If you assess the value of the car with the stereo versus the value of the car without the stereo in the jalopy is significant because people will pay more for a car with a stereo. But you take the same $500 stereo and you put it in a $50,000 Jaguar, and you assess the difference between the car with the stereo and the car without the stereo, the difference will actually be less than it is in the jalopy. Do you hear that distinction? So that it's relative. Everything is relative. So that's what Yerushalmi says. We can't assess the radio based on its placement in the middle of a jalopy. We have to take the same radio, imagine it in a car of parallel value, and then it's being missing, which actually reduces the amount of payment you have to give. It's an amazing concept. Okay, so that's what it says here. So therefore, instead of looking at the field where the patch which is damaged is idis, and everything around the ziburis, which would make the contrast so great that it would increase the amount of money the nizak gets, rather look at the entire field as if it was full of idis. And then we reckon this idis portion as relative to the rest of the field, and vice versa. Ziburis also, if you had a patch was ziburis in the middle of an idis field, and the animal came and damaged that patch by itself, that you have to pay far less than the cost we wanted to pay. So in that case, we also assess that ziburis as if it was part and parcel of something which is completely ziburis. Okay?
In real estate, I think it's the opposite. If you have a mansion in the middle of a row of houses that are just plain old houses, the mansion isn't worth as much as if you had a whole lineup of mansions. Because the resale value of the mansion in the bad neighborhood is not going to get you as much.
That's true. That's true. But and then you would have to assess, in all cases you'd have to adjust accordingly to strike a balance. Sometimes it's going to be, Yerushalmi is saying both ends of the ground. Sometimes it's going to overcompensate, sometimes it's going to undercompensate. So therefore, you always have to say this one thing as if it was in a row. You'd have to take the mansion as if it was together with other mansions. In which case, you would be undercompensating, where you just reckon its relative value, and where it is, you'd have to reckon its relative value if it was in a row of stately houses. Okay, so it says the Gemara Nitza Mishalim Mididis al Idis, and then you would pay from Idis on Idis, Ziburis and from Ziburis on the Ziburis. Okay, now instead of Minayin, the Gemara asks V'leisle. Change it to V'leisle. It's Shai Torah Yisrael. V'leisle Rabbi Akiva and he's talking Shamilam Bidis. Rabbi Akiva holds Vitaka don't give the best of the mazik to the nizak. We only give what would have been the best of the nizak. It says more Leisim in Torah. He doesn't hold that it's the Raisa. Isa minei takona. He holds minei takona. Midrabanan, we require the mazik to give property of his best, regardless of what the best of the nizak was. Mibnei ma'omra and nizakin shami lambi. This why they say there are rabbanon that nizakin get idis. Mibnei agazlonim, because of the thieves. She'adam omer, a person should say ma biyodi gezo. Why should I bother stealing? Or ma biyodi mazik, why should I bother damaging? L'mocha roim based in, tomorrow if I damage or steal, tomorrow based will see so the yopishli my best feel v'noisa some funai and take away from me. So because of takora as a deterrent, that's a Rabbanan instituted this, that you give your best, even if it's far better than the nizak's best. You give based on the nizak's best, not on the mazik's best. Okay? Says and they're given a smachta from a pasuk. Meitav sadehu umeitav karmo yishalem, sadehu and karmo of the mazik, not of the nizak, even though it's only a smachta. Akdun karko, this works for his land. When the mazik is paying land. What about mashkona? What about if we go in and take collateral from the mazik, pending his payment in land, but we take in immovable objects? So how do we know we take his best furniture? So it says more, Lomi karko, we learn it from land. Ma karko base, just like from his land we take idis, the best. Mashkona idis, so to his collateral we take from this from the best. Okay, period. Uba'achov, when we take from a debtor, we take rebbeinonis, because of the cheaters. What are the cheaters? So conmen, actually, I should say. If we would take edis from creditors, so anybody who was anybody could go any conman, and when he sees his friend has a good field, he'll loan him a amount of money and make sure that he defaults on the loan. And he'll go treacherously around him, another man, and take his field from him in lieu of payment. So if we allow people to take idis on his payment on the debts which are owed them, so then everybody's going to try and play ruses in order to get their friend's choice real estate. So that's only get Beinonis. So it says, well, on the other hand, if that's the case, we're afraid of these kinds of ruses. Me'atal Shimula Ziburis. It's only give Ziburis, not Beinonis. It says, there's flip side to this. Rabbi he said, Bikini, theoretically you're correct, that's the way it should be. Slowly, no dels, we don't want to lock the door in front of the debtor, the people have to borrow money, and the creditors always knew they would get ziburis, they'd be very unlikely to loan. Shalomachar, the next day, who it should be wrote to the most. The guy wants to borrow, he won't find it if all he's committing is ziburis. There's a whole discussion on Yerushalmi in the bottom. If this is the rights of the Rabbanan, that which we're about to learn, or whether it's Machlokas, Bavli, Yerushalmi, it's kind of difficult to say. But let's see what the Gemara actually says. It says, Va'ish, the individual who comes to collect a loan, Zeshliach Beistin. That's the agent of Beis Din. Why does the Torah speak about an agent of Beis Din coming to collect loans? Why can't the creditor himself collect loans? So it says, and again, some first want to say this is the Raisa. If the creditor goes in, who motzi sayofe, he's going to take out the best stuff he can find in the house, right? If you send in the borrower himself, meaning that he'll bring out what he wants, umotzi esara, is going to take out the worst furniture in the house. Okay, so what do? Shliach Beis Din nichnas umotzi esar beinonis. We send a shliach Beis Din in order that he should take the beinonis to medium grade. Rabbi Shmuel, what? Every balchov, right? So it sounds like it's a deraisa. Shmuel mered Vartor, and Rabbi Shmuel argues. He says Vartor sheikones aloive. Really, midaraisa, the borrower should extend what he wants. The individual concerning whom you have a debt, yotzi lecha savod, he should take out for you his payment in kind hachutza, outside, so everybody should have the discretion to give midaraisa, even ziburis. Midarabanan, they send shliach Beis Din in order that he should get beinunis. So they argue. It seems that they argue it's the deraisa derabanan. Karko lamei mashkono, and ad kedu mashkono. This story about where you're paying in kind, and it's probably just a collateral until you get money. So then you give the midaraisa, the Baal Chov has discretion. Midrabanan, or perhaps the rice or Rabbi Simoy, then the shliach Beis Din comes and it takes beinunis. So karko, if you're collecting land, we learn out from collecting property, from collecting movable goods. Ma'amashkona, the collateral movable goods, beinunis is an average medium grade. Afkarko, beinunis. So too, when you collect land, you collect beinunis. Now, the other one is actually very interesting. We're about to learn.
Do we have about such an idea? Metalton has different grades?
No.
Because Metalton's supposed to be like units.
No, at first, that's a good point. At first, I was very disconcerted by this idea, and I wanted, when the Mashkom Beidis came up on the bottom here, I wanted to learn a story about land. But it's impossible. So you see quite clearly the Gemara distinguishes between Mashkon and Karka. That the Gemara says explicitly the Mashkon for Nezik is Idis and the Mashkon for Chov is Beinunis. Right, so you see there's a good point that the Bavli holds all metalflin are in effect Idis, but the Yerushalmi is drawing the distinction between grades and metalflin. That's right, very good point. Okay, the next one is also not in the Bavli, although it says here we had in the Yerushalmi a long time ago in Shvis. It says in Rashita to Milsa, it's clearly like this: Milva shinasa bo kafronos. If you had a loan outstanding on an individual and he started denying the loan, Eina nishmetis. So Shemitah doesn't cancel such a loan because it's no longer a collectible loan. Shemitah only cancels collectible loans, and it's not collectible because the guy is denying it. And vice versa, kafros, let's say the loan was denied for many years, and then she nasis milva, now the lova admits it, b'shametes, so then Shemitah cancels the loan. So of course the lova would be smart to deny for 7 years and only admit it the last day before Rosh Hashanah, after the Shemitah year, right? So, Rabbi Yirmiyah, I think here it's a statement. He said, it's also true about areas of Choshen Mishpat, not to do with religious law, such as Shemitah, but in general, Choshen Mishpat. Milvet she nasis kafronis. If a loan became recalcitrant, right, he's not paying anymore, so goyve collects, and the word missing here is according to Shara Torah Yisrael, be'idis. Then he collects, then it becomes like nezik and idis, right? So that's what it says here. Kafrana shinasis milva. However, if it was being recalcitrant, he was denying it, but then he became acquiescent and made it back into a loan. Go beinunis, then you downgrade to beinunis, just like any other debt. Okay, now, Ein Shamela Idis, let's say there's only Idis, a guy only has Idis, Goive, the Shara Torah changes the Kulan Goive, and the idea is the same, everybody collects Idis. Beinonus, if he only has Beinonus, go have Beinonus. Everybody, the Nezek, the Ba'achov, and the Ksuvas Isha, they all collect Beinonus. Ziburis, if he only has Ziburis, go to Ziburis, they all collect Ziburis. Edus of Beinonus, what a guy has the top grade and medium grade, and he's talking Shamlan Bidus, then the people who are damaged, they get paid back with Edus. Ba'achov, Ksuvas Isha, the creditor and a ksuva, they go down a notch, and there's no lower notch, no lower notch to go to, so they get Beinonus, right? Ziburis, if the debtor has Beinonus and Ziburis, he doesn't have any top grade, he only has medium and low grade. He's talking about Alichov, then he's talking about Alichov, Shalom Beinonus, they get the Beinonus. Uksuva Sisha, she gets the Ziburis. Right now, those are pretty straightforward. What about this case? He's got super duper idis, right? Right? Idis yavim yishel kol adam. Ide idis is called in the Bavli. Idis and idis, regular idis, he Beinonus shalo. By him, that's Beinonus. He's so wealthy that he's got super idis, and what he calls Beinonus is everybody else's idis, right? So. At Beinonus, his Beinonus, anybody else's Beinonus, he's Ziburis Shelo, it's his, vis-a-vis him, it's Ziburis, right? You have a Mishal Koh, did I skip? I think it's, what?
No, keep going.
No, I did skip. What? I lost my flow. Let me just go back a couple lines. I say, Idis Shelo Yav Mikol Adam, Idis, EDC. You're right, stop in the wrong place. EDC. So then that's his edis. No matter, it doesn't matter. Beishal Yavish called him still Beinonus. That's Beinonus. Ziburis Yavish called him Ziburis. Doesn't matter. We go by his scale, not by the rest of the world. Okay, that's like we learned Rabbi Shmuel b'mazik in Shami. We go by his scale. We don't measure it by the rest, by an objective scale. Okay. What if his edis, however, was Beinonus of anybody else? In other words, it was lower than anybody else's edis. His edis was only a Beinonus. So Rabbi Zir, Rabbi Ela, and Rabbi Ela said, Nishmina minadol, let's learn out from here. Beinonus is Ziburis. If you have Beinonus and Ziburis, right? This is a quote from what we said a few lines ago. And he's talking about Alichov, Shamin Lahem, Mina Beinonus. The Nizakin and creditors get from your Beinonus. Uksuvas Isha, Mina Ziburis. It's only Ksuv which is downgraded, as it always is, Ziburis. So, Kimod boy Idisu Beinonus. Just like we say by Idisu Beinonus, Nizakin Doichel Balichov, Lebenis, and Nizakin Pushel Balichov get Beinonus. So the Kabbalah here too, if we said that his Beinonus, his idis is comparable to everybody else's Beinonus, were we to say that it has the status of idis, so here too we should say, let the Nizakin push out the Baal Chov shall only collect Ziburis. So since it doesn't say that, since it says when you have Beinonus and Ziburis, both your damagees and your creditors collect from your Beinonus, so it must be that even though the Beinonus by you is the best, it still goes by the absolute valuation, which is Beinonus. So we always go to the betterment of the guy who's collecting. If you have superidis, and your Beinonus is really like everybody else's idis, and your Ziburis is really like everybody else's Beinonus, we go by your reckoning, which is to your loss and the benefit of the guy who's collecting from you. And also, if you have only Beinonus and Ziburis, and maybe Ziburis, right? So your top grade is would be considered by else Beinonus. We also go to your detriment, and the Baal Chov collect from that Beinonus, even though vis-a-vis you would see this. So we always go to your detriment. Okay. Says Rabbi Yossi Rav Shariach said not necessarily. Tipater shoyso idis u'mechara. Maybe the reason why you hear the Baal Chov gets Beinonus is not because his Beinonus says we don't regard his Beinonus as being vis-a-vis him like Edis, even though he has no higher grade. But perhaps at the time that he contracted the loan, the Hoislo Edis, he had Edis Umachara, and then it sold afterwards. So at that point, the Baal Chov already, since at the time of the loan, there was higher stuff which is greater it is, he already locked into this field which at that time was bitterness. But it could be enochanami, if all he ever had was bitterness, so then the Baal Chov is downgraded, bumped down to Ziburis. It's only if at the time alone the debtor had Edis that later on he can't force the downgrade to bitterness subsequently. Okay. Uksuvas Yishuv Ziburis. Uksuvas Yishuv collects in Ziburis. We had this in very Masech Uksuvas. Rabbi Yehuda said, Lo Shalom Masayim, it's only the base payment. Avoksubas of dinner, if the ksubas worth $1,000, the tosefes goiva you collect by bitterness because that's just like a debt. But Yosim not true. If you look subas of dinner, if the ksubas $1,000, ain't no goiva mzuris, you only collect from zipuris. Why? Because it's the tosefes because part and parcel of the base ksuba. Vasi in this machlok plugvasa, this plugvasa, this mal is going to ilin plugvasa like this machlokas, which is kozman shivavesa of here. It says, as long as a woman remains in her father's house, she collects her ksuva forever. Kozman, we don't pass the opposite of this one. Kozman, she remains baal, as long as she's in her husband's house, but govik ksuva, she only has to collect ksuva either 25 shana, only for 25 years. Well, the mice will be passing the other way. As long as she remains in her husband's house, she can collect for ever. Once she goes home, the clock starts ticking 25 years, statute of limitations. But be that as it may, it's not germane for us. Rabbi Simon and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Simon and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, that there's a clock ticking at all, is lo shana el ksuvas monasayim, it's only for the base ksuva. Avlayis ksuva asa el of dinner, but ksuva was had toseves above and beyond that. Gavak ksuva asa the toseves is just like a debt, and there's no statute of limitations on debt, so she can always collect that. Asa Rabbi Avo, or Yavo argued, Shari Yochanan said, Rabbi Yochanan, I feel ksuba shel dinar, even if the ksuba is $1,000, ain't a goyvel estim v'chamesh, he can only collect to 25 years, because he holds, of course, the opposite, that all of the ksuba has the status of a ksuba. Ba'asar Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Shimon Levi. So machlokes we had previously about whether the Tosefes collects from Beinis. It's the same machlokas whether the Tosefes applies the statute of limitations or doesn't apply the statute of limitations. Okay? If it's like a debt, then you collect in Beinis and there is no statute of limitations. If it's not like a debt, it's like a regular suva, then you collect it from Ziburis and there is a statute of limitations. Okay, it says the Tina Taman, but really it's not a continuation of what says previously, so it should probably be Tamat Ninan or just Ninan Taman without the Dalit. Somebody writes the property over, this is really above, so he writes the property over to his children. And he allocated to his wife some land, but far less than she actually deserves in the will. She loses her ksuva. The Rab said it's only if she was made the executor of this will, because then she acquiesced. Shmuel says even if you just make this arrangement in front of her, then she's not the executor. She's considered to have given up her rights to the ksuva. Why is that? So Rabbi Yosef Chanina said the same principle said before. Omar mikule ksuva shanokam, but ksuva is more lenient. Ksuva is more lenient, and therefore, the moment she shows even a minimal sign of acquiescence, we cause her to lose the ksuva. Rabbi said, tonight time, Rabbi Yossi Merchina, relating back to the Sugya, the larger is China's losotar b'ksulas man of sign doesn't just apply to the base ksuva, but since we had your opinions which link the Tosefs to the base ksuva, filu ksuva shamel el dinar, mikule ksuva shana, even the ksuva is $1,000, when the coolest ksuva is that with ease she loses her rights to her ksuva by just being party to a will which goes against her ksuva. Halacha base. Any problem we do not collect from property which is under lien, but in a case where there's property which is free and clear, a few lanes ziburis. Even the property is free and clear is only ziburis, tough on the creditors. And from Yisrael, from Yisrael only collect ziburis. I said, from Yisrael, when we have these orphans who are young, we don't collect from them at all. Unless there's interest accruing on loan, in which case every day they're losing more money, right? In that case we collect, even from some who are minors. Some say a ksuva isha, also a ksuva of a woman, we collect from the orphan's property. Now, we had this in ksuvas as well. The reason why we do that is because we save the yisoimim the cost of mizonos. Well, actually, that's about the Gemara's going to say. All right, name Mizonos, not because of Ksuva in itself, rather because we save the cost of having to pay Mizonos. Once she demands her Ksuva and they pay it out, they no longer have to pay Mizonos. All right, remember Tanya said, Man Chachtel Mizonos. Who's concerned with the Mizonos? Lamaisa, the base of the question is, from the time she demands her Ksuva, it's as if she collects it. And therefore she shouldn't get any Mizonos anymore. Right? Because it's as if she got her ksuva, and she only gets ksuva until she only gets mizonos until she collects her ksuva. So once she demands her ksuva in basin, it's as if she collects her ksuva. So therefore, why should we now give her ksuva to avoid what? She lost her mizonos anyway. So it says, Man chach mizonos, Rabbi Shimon. The only person who holds that she still gave mizonos and therefore we should pay her per ksuva, even from the property of Yerushalmi Gittin, is Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon says even if she demanded her ksuva, she still gets mizonos until she actually collects her ksuva. So therefore it ain't over till it's over. So therefore he says, according to him, we would want to collect the ksuva for a woman, for a widow, from the property of Yerushalmi, even though they're ketanim, in order to cease the payments of mizonos, which are eating at the Yisom's property. Now, it says more Maikadun, according to Rabbanan, that she doesn't get mizonos the moment she demands her ksuva. So why taka would we collect for the ksuva from the Yisomim in order to get rid of her? L'chora, she lost mizonos because she demanded her ksuva. She shouldn't get her ksuva, and what's the issue? So it says, you know why we do it? We do takon rabbanan in her benefit. The reason why you give her ksuva when she demands it, even the same as ketanim, is that she should have grace. That she should be able to get remarried with ease. So it's like a second dowry we give her, and that's why it's a rachmanis which we gave her. Or I don't know if it's a rachmanis so much as the husband commits that his yisayimim should give her the ksuva, in order if she wants to remarry, she should have the capacity to remarry. Okay? Says the Gemara, some say, they also collect for the property of yisayimim if they're reimbursing a theft or a damage caused by their parents. We also learned We learned both these things in Mishnayos. Definitely learn from here. If it's something which has responsibility, which we assume to mean if there was a theft against the property, they got to pay. And the zakin that it's damages that to pay minadot says it says you only collect from the property of some ziburis. Kenny Masli is the way to rid the Mishnah. Any from Nilsi Yisrael Linazakin, Elamina Ziburas. We only collect from the property of Yisrael for Nizakin from Ziburas. V'atani, then we learn that's not true. When the son takes place with father, Hanizakin Shem Lambidis, even though he's an orphan, Nizakin get from Idis, and Balichov get from Beinernis, and Ksuvas Yishab Ziburas. So we say you do collect each level according to its level. So says the Gemara, can be awesome god or can be awesome cotton. Depends if it's an adult orphan or a minor orphan. If it's an adult orphan, then already you can collect from them whatever is proper. If it's a minor orphan, you can only collect ziburis in only limited circumstances. Okay, almost finished. We do not extricate money for fruit which is eaten illicitly. The one is going to give examples. Shvach karkos for improvement of lands. Umozan isha, and for paying a woman's mizonos, or the wife or daughter, vabonos, minachasim mishbanim, from property on the lien, mibnei tikkun olam, because of tikkun olam. Tikkun olam means because people won't be able to do commerce because they'll always be afraid that somebody is going to come and collect property which they bought years ago in order to satisfy some obscure debt. So Amotzi Mitzia, also if somebody finds a Mitzia, Lo Yisha Mnei Tikkun Olam, he doesn't take a Shvur. Why Mnei Tikkun Olam? Because otherwise people are not going to pick up Mitzias if you make them take Shvurs every time they pick it up. Says said, why don't we take this for the Chosim Mishubari? Mipnei She'ein Lohen Kitzvah, because there's no limit. And therefore nobody will know how much care they have to, how much concern they have to have. So therefore, you just don't collect. Says the Gemara, now, interesting case. It's a classic case. Reuven stole a field from Shimon, so Reuven's the thief. Shimon's original owner, the names are out of order. Shimon's original owner, Reuven stole it, Reuven sold to Levi. Okay? Uba Shimon. Shimon comes to Tarvin Levi, and he grabs it from Levi. Levi goes to Karen. Levi, assuming the sale was guaranteed, he collects the principal, Reuven, even from property which Reuven sold away. Right? The Shimon, now, so far that's clear, but Shimon goive achilas peros. Shimon collects the fruit which was consumed from the field, bibnei chorin shel Levi, from the free and open property of Levi. A very strange thing. But it seems that Levi ate fruit from the field, which really was Reuven's field, which was Shimon's field, right? So therefore, Shimon comes and collects money corresponding to Achilas Peros from Levi's Bnei Chorin, not from Levi's Meshubadim, because it's a davar shein lo kitzvah, and every something which has no limit, we don't collect from the chosim Meshubadim. But since Levi had hanoah from the field, he ate the fruit, we have to take from property which he has in order to reimburse Shimon for that fruit which was rightfully his. Okay?
Why does he didn't take it from Reuven, since Reuven was the guy?
Because Levi ate it.
Levi ate it.
Doesn't matter. When you eat it, you have to pay for it. Because you had that hanoah. Okay? Because it was a chiddush, but that's not such a big chiddush. It's a reasonable thing. Because you're the one who actually ate it. Yeah, we do it in Bavli too. Amar Levi Shbiach. Now, what if Levi enhanced the field? So the enhancement, Levi Govas Karen, Mishubadim Shel Reuven, whatever enhancement he did, the principle he takes from Reuven's Mishubadim. The Govas Shvach, the enhancements he made, Bibnei Chorin, he takes it from the free and clear property Shel. It's a typo here, it shouldn't be Shimon, but rather of Reuven. At least that's what Korbaneda says, that Reuven should reimburse him for whatever Shvach he made. Rabbi Chia B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, now Rabbi Chia said name Rabbi Yochanan, very logical statement. On Ravu Shekar Mitchol Shel Zeh L'Shiv Chol Shel Zeh. This is only if the guys who bought property from the thief, from Reuven, other than Levi, bought it prior to Levi's being mashbiach the field. But if Levi approved the field before the other buyers bought from Reuven, then that's davar sheish lo kitzvah. It's tangible and ascertainable. So then, he collects the shvachim shubadim shel Shimon. Now, Shimon is lav dafka, right? It's not necessarily Shimon. I think it's supposed to be here. It's here too. It's supposed to be Reuven. I just incorrected in my Gemara, but here too it's supposed to be Reuven. Okay, because in that case, the people who bought from Reuven should have taken into account whatever shvach occurred in fields sold by Reuven, since since he bought this field, which he's now selling to somebody else. Rabba and Rabbi Chia b'Shem Rabbi Yochanan Amar, they said Af achilas peros. Who kachiavta. This is true also by achilas peros. Fascinating concept. Afik dala dinarim v'ushavach ashata. You pay. Let's say the guy expended $4 and it went up price. Now it's worth $6. So Levi, who did the shevach, Gavi arba dinaraya, he collects $4, which was his expenses. Mimshubadim shel Reuven, from property which Reuven put under lien, right, which Reuven sold to others. The Gabi trei achronais, and he even collects the two other ones, the Bnei Chorin, from the free property shall adhere to it should be Reuven as well. So he collects the shevach from Reuven's property completely. The shevach which he did before the buyers bought from Reuven these fields, that he gets even from Shubanim. The shevach comes afterwards, that he only gets from Bnei Chorin. Now, the next, I think we'll stop here. The next one is actually very interesting, also one of these unique Yerushalmis, and it's connected, but the whole thing is connected, so we'll stop here for this evening.